writing my book, Celebrate Your Grief, so much really started changing for me. And like you said, I'm a mom and a wife, and I've had this experience. And the more I allow myself to really be with it, the more I'm really learning about myself. And the more I've been able to share this story, the more amazing connections that have come from it. And so, if you're feeling called to reach out after listening to our conversation today, please do, because those are the conversations that are so valuable to me. And I've made these incredible connections with people who have been able to open up after listening to me open up about my story. So I invite you to to comment below or reach out to me personally. And yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Yes. Yeah. And isn't it so timely? It's like this time of the year when we are, going into winter and more darkness. A lot of feelings of grief are coming up. And I remember you were saying that you find that it is different. The grief is very different from our emotions, but can be confused sometimes with other emotions, and that's why we can't really recognize it. Can you talk a little bit more about this?
Yeah, I have been essentially studying grief for a couple of years now, because I don't think I realized the extent of my own grief. And when we first started our lockdown, and when COVID kind of came into our lives, there was a lot of mixed emotions that were being shared, and confusion, and feelings of loss. Loss around jobs, loss around time together, loss. Well, I mean, everybody's familiar with all of the things that have shifted in our lives, and it's that shift that really is the grief, because we're losing something that was so consistent and steady, and sort of fundamental with our identity before COVID, into a new existence, and a new perspective. And that loss, that is the grief. And I don't think many people were calling it grief until I think my sister-in-law shared a news article on Facebook that like just nailed it. And it was like, these feelings that we're having, you're grieving. And I was like, yes, that's absolutely what's going on. And grief is such a like multi-faceted a sense, like combination of emotions, right? You can go literally from like tears 1 second to like laughing in another second, right? And it's all over the map. It is the full range of emotions. So it's not just sadness, it's not just that depression and the like heaviness that we feel, but it can also be joy, and it can be love. And the more that I've been able to explore it, and really feel into what it means for me, the more I've been able to realize how much love is behind grief. And so, yeah, like I said, that's my hope, is to like shift your sort of feelings around what it is, and allow that love and that joy to be able to shine through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before we go questions, I can see some people are watching us live. Yay! Marnie, Candy, Marisha, thanks for watching us live.
Hello, ladies.
We have questions for the in there. Um, yeah, so that shift you explaining that we're experiencing is the grief. But how did you start like what is your story about the grief, and that the one you are sharing in the book? How did you come to realize actually that you need to deeply work with it instead of just keep laying there and just
Yeah.
being there? Like,
Yeah.
why would you start exploring this? And what's your
Such Yes, such a good question, Mansi. So it's been almost 2 decades. It's been 18 years, I guess, since in August, that I lost like a really dear friend. I thought this person was going to be, the love of my life, and we had an incredible relationship when we were together. I mean, looking back, we were both very young at the time, but like from the experience that we shared together, this person really had a powerful impact on me and my spirituality and who I was. And so he committed suicide, and at that time in my life, I was just wrecked. And I carried on my life. I kept working and kept dating, and eventually I moved to the Comox Valley, and I got married and had children, and like everything carried on as though life was normal. But I didn't realize how much I was carrying that sadness and that loss with me. I like, particularly because it was a suicide that um, impacted me. The silence around that subject was just like daunting, I guess you could say. So for for those 2 decades, I didn't talk to anybody about the emotions that I had around this person. Like, it was very, very little that I ever expressed any loss, any sadness. I saved those moments for, the times when I driving in the car and that song would come on and the tears would come, all of the times when I was alone and felt that it was safe to do that. I had all this emotion sort of trapped inside of me, and it started to come out in funny ways. Like, I remember specifically being at Nye's, and I was listening to my niece's, it may have been a Christmas concert, or they do multiple concerts during the year. So I was invited to go and listen, and hearing the children sing and play the music, it literally just like ripped through me. And that, it makes me tear up just thinking about it now. The the power of that pure joy took me to a place of pure sadness. And I was like, okay, something's wrong here. Like, I can't go through the rest of my life tearing up at every Christmas concert I go to, or every time I go to church and hear singing. Like, there's something not wired right. I feel like I've wired the joy in my life to this place of grief, and I need to figure that out. And so the more I sort of started exploring this concept, the more lessons and insights, and the more spiritual my life started to become as I allowed myself to listen to what was really going on within me. Because before that, I was simply just reacting to life as it was happening around me, and I was living a victim's life. I wasn't telling anybody that, but that's what was going on in my head and in my thoughts. And I was a victim to this person who had, decided to leave, and their suicide, and it wasn't allowing me to fully move into the person that I was capable of being. So yeah, that's the beginning of it anyways.
Yes. Wow, it's such a powerful story, and you're sharing with so much vulnerability and heart. And so you realized, yes, as something is off and you have to rewire it. And then, so what happened then, and how did you come to this part of the healing, and how, and what is it that, yeah, let's start with this. So how did you come to that part of healing?
Well, it's been such a journey. I should say that you and I know each other because I came to one of your Kundalini yoga classes originally, and I was so excited to find a Kundalini teacher in the Comox Valley. And then our relationship grew, and I went to a full moon meditation with you, and um, then you are my Reiki master. So I studied Reiki with you too, and all of these um, processes and activities and practices that I've tried and that have facilitated my healing, they've all just kind of come to me the more that I've just sort of tuned into myself and listened to my intuition, it sort of started, like once I realized something needed to change.
Mhm.
I had gone down to Victoria for my 40th birthday and did a float. I don't know if I've talked to you about this, but like in an isolation tank, and you spend an hour in there, and by the end of it, I realized it's like a pressure cooker for meditation. And meditation wasn't something that I had done for years. Anything that was spiritual for me, I stopped practicing after my friend passed, because it just took me right back to him every time. And I was like, I can't go into that pain. I can't go into that pain. And so once once I had this float and realized I needed to like heal what was going on in my heart, uh, things just sort of started coming to me, and I was open to it, and I slowly started allowing myself to become that spiritual person that I needed to be, and that, I think we all are. And and yeah, there's just been so much inspiration and so many gifts that have come from that inner connection. And I I'm just so grateful for all of it and so excited to share it with other people. um I was saying to you earlier, like, this is such a wonderful group that you've started, the Mompreneurs. And I mean, I don't have anything to sell at this point, or I'm not offering any services or anything like that. But I do, more than anything, just want to share these experiences so that other people know that it's okay to open up about their spirituality, and know that it's okay to talk about their grief, and know that it's okay to step out of your comfort zone and push through all of those fears, to be able to uh, have these conversations.
Mhm.
One of the biggest gifts that has come from me really like diving into myself and my grief has been the idea of self-love. And what I realized when I was writing the book was that uh, the love that I felt for this person that I lost was equal to, or the grief that I felt for the person that I lost was equal to the love that I had for them. So this, a mix of emotions was there, but the love that I had for them was actually, and always was, a reflection of the love that my higher self is always feeling for me and holding for me. So like our relationship was amazing and beautiful, but it was a total reflection entirely of me and the feelings that I have for myself. And so I realized I didn't need him in order to have those feelings anymore. I was completely and always capable of summoning that amount of love and that amount of um, experience and energy within myself. And the more I tune into that, the more I see that reflected in everybody else around me. And that has been pure joy, to be able to have these interactions and conversations, and know that the more I focus inward, the more I completely change my reality outside of myself. I know I'm throwing a lot out there right now, but it feels like
Yeah.
it's like I get so excited about it. I really do.
Yes, me too. Yeah, so I guess, like, those times, the 18 years, right? If you had some more support around you, or if people would be more open and talking about it and asking, yes, we understand you had this experience, let's talk about it, then perhaps it would speed up a little bit this process and didn't have to take so long.
Yeah.
So I wonder, through this process, what did you maybe realize, understood? Why is it so this topic is silenced and nobody's talking about it? It's like pushed to the side, away.
Yeah. Yeah. Grief is definitely an uncomfortable conversation to have. And suicide is a really uncomfortable conversation to have. I mean, it's not even broadcast on the news unless it's, somebody really famous that it's happened to. And so I think it's just the way our society has processed death in general, right? Like there's so many conversations that we just should be having, but we just don't, and we don't know how to start them, and we don't know how to facilitate them either. And I really am starting to see a shift happening around that, and it's neat to be part of that sort of leading edge conversation, because they these you know the thing that I believe about death and dying now is that, you're just changing form. We are, in these bodies for these temporary times that we have it, but then, we're all made of energy, and we're energetic beings, and as we lose this body, we just move into the universe in a different way, and have a different interaction. And so it should be more of a beautiful acceptance of that um other experience that is coming to us, as opposed to like it being something that is fearful and scary. And there's feelings of loss, and there's going to be all sorts of emotion that comes up with that. But the more that we're able just to be honest with ourselves in that emotion, and then I think that easier it is to um not move through it, or let go of it. I mean, that's one of the biggest things about grief, is that there's sort of this illusion that it's something that, you have a week to feel it, and then you got to, go back to work and you should be fine. But it really isn't that way, because it comes and goes, and it hits you when you least expect it, and you just have to sit with it in the moment. We are so good at distracting ourselves and not allowing ourselves to really feel what we're feeling at any given time. We have these um I won't call them tools, but like, we have our phones, and we have our TV, and we have our
Mhm.
alcohol and our drugs, and even like I catch myself now recognizing that, like, I talk about other people to distract from talking about, myself. And there's there's so many ways that we shift that attention away from where we are inside and how we're feeling, that um we we don't give ourselves the space, or hold the space to just feel it until it passes, essentially. And those feelings always pass. So um it's, I think, like you said, the biggest thing in our society, and why we don't talk about these things, is because they're scary. They feel uncomfortable, right? So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes, and just that all connotation of death is something negative. But for centuries, for thousands of years, there is the knowledge and the wisdom that death is just another rebirth. And it is just through really connecting to the spirit, we can experience that unity and connection. The body might not be there, but the connection will always be there. So it's beautiful you talked about this. And as we go further, we see our children, right? And it's going to be different for them. It is different for them. But how did you have any experience, or that how would we help children to process this feeling, the grief?
Yeah, such a good point. I know with my two children, there was a lot of feelings when we lost our school back in the spring. And when everybody shifted to doing homeschool, and for them there was grief, because there was that loss of connection with their friends, and um, so many things obviously tied around that. And the the most important thing that I'm learning about grief for anyone, and with children, is to just allow them to feel what they're feeling, and just literally like hold space for them. It's not about judging them or correcting them, or telling them how that they should feel. It is just about naming that emotion. And then often you can ask yourself, where do you feel that in your body? And then just letting it pass, right? Sometimes they just need some extra cuddles, and sometimes, you know, they need to go and do some exercise, and other times they just, you know, want to put themselves into a book or onto their tablets. But it's important before they do that to like to name that emotion and just to allow it to be for as long as they need. And it's good to always keep checking in with them too, right? Like I so much of these emotions, because they are uncomfortable, we kind of, you know, we'll talk about them at first, and then we'll sort of like, okay, I think everybody's okay, so we're just never going to talk about that again,
Mhm.
because that's, you know, that's too uncomfortable. So it's good to go back and just like check in and make sure that they know that, you know, you are a safe space for them to express that emotion when they need to, because there aren't often opportunities outside of the home where they have that safe
Mhm.
place
Yeah.
to be. So,
And it feels like with these times, it's just becoming the opposite. We can't just like trust our children into some kind of a system and believe that they're going to be, you know, perfect human beings. It's actually our responsibility. So the home and connection with them becomes even more important. Like this, the home should be the safest place
yeah,
of conversations, of their experiences, um, and so that they can be okay with what is happening, but also knowing what is it that they can do to come out of that, not to stay there
yeah,
forever. I think that's a big shift. That's how I see a shift is happening. So for us, for parents, this is even more like inner work and responsibility to become better at communication with our children,
yeah,
especially when it
yeah,
comes
yeah.
to emotions.
Yeah, yeah. I listening to the, you know, your interview last week with Jen. She touched on this so perfectly in terms of like children being our biggest teachers, and how, you know, they trigger us, and they trigger the parts of us that, you know, we need to work on the most. And again, they are this reflection of us solely, and it gives us this opportunity to, you know, again, step back and observe ourselves and look at ourselves and do the work that needs to be done to be more connected and to be more authentic with who we are. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, I think it was really amazing what we talked about. We touched different, very deep points, and I saw some people watching us. And if somebody watching on replay, please put in the comments #replay. It'd be nice to know. And Carrie is, as she mentioned, she is open to conversations. She doesn't have any specific service or something to offer, but she's really open to conversations. So if you have any struggle with this, or you just need someone to talk to, she'll be open to to you. You can connect with her.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, it was so amazing. And we will continue our interviews with beautiful moms from this community. I
yay,
think our next one is December 11th, the next week. We are going to talk with Liz about the balance and boundaries, how to have healthy balance in life between work and family, etc. So it should be interesting too.
yeah. I'm excited to listen to that one for sure.
Perfect. Okay, it was so nice to have you, Carrie. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mom.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, cool.